Okay, this tutorial is how to complete the assignment called names. Now we're going to be using the program called Python. So on the computer that you're logged into, notice I grabbed this screen. I'm logged into number 7. I've used Splashtop to log in. I'm just going to click down here and show you. I selected number 7. Now if you don't have Splashtop running and you haven't logged into one of my computers in my computer lab, then you need to go watch the other video on how to use Splashtop to log in. Alright, so once I'm here, and I'm going to go ahead and maximize this screen, now I can see the menu bar for the computer, number 7, and then this one is for my laptop down here. So I'm going to click right here, computer lab, number 7, type in PYTH for Python, and sometimes you'll see one pop up that says command line. So be careful, don't pick that one. Make sure you always pick the one that says IDLE. And then it says Python GUI, Graphical User Interface. Alright, it looks like this. It says shell. Now, the font is just too small for me, so I'm going to go like this. Go to Options, Configure. And there's two things I want to do. One thing, I want to change the font size because it's just too small. I'm going to go to 16, and I like to bold it. Then the other thing I want to do is turn on the numbers. And let's see here, keys, general, fonts. Oh, I'm in the wrong screen. I'll do that on the next one. I'll turn on the numbers. So in this shell mode, we don't do any typing over here. This is where the output, or when I say in the future, I'm going to say, what's the user going to do? Well, this is where the user makes their decision and types in and reads the output. So what we need to do as the programmer, we're going to be typing in what's called the script mode. So we go to File, New File, and notice it looks a little different. This window, like it says Untitled, it's waiting for us to file Save As and give it a name. And this one's not waiting for us to save it. This is just an output window. So I'm going to drag it until my cursor touches the edge, then it auto-halves, and I click on this one. Okay, now I want to go back to this option, and I was looking for an option here that says show numbers, and then it would show us numbers for each line number. But this is an older version, I guess it's 3.41. I have to get, I think, 3.48 loaded on these guys, and then I'll get that. So I'm gonna work on that. So hopefully I'll let you guys know when that's loaded on all these machines. Some of them have it and some don't. But if you see line numbers on here, it's a useful tool because it has numbers. But alright, we don't need them. Let's go ahead and start typing the code. First thing I want you guys to type would be a pound sign in front of 3 lines, and then you're going to put your name, what period the class is, and then the name of the file. You don't have to put the .py, we can just do names, and that's the name of our file today. Then we're going to go ahead and save it. File, Save As, and use this pull down arrow to find your OneDrive. Go to your OneDrive, and if you haven't already done so, create a new folder. Right up here, new folder named Game Programming. I already have one in here named Game Programming. And then I'm just going to name it Names. That's the name of the file. And now we're good to go. Now if I run it, go to the Run, pull down menu, Run Module, which is F5. Notice nothing output, and that's because of these pound signs. It's telling the interpreter to just ignore that. And so what we use these pound signs for is to make notes in our file so that we can write notes to ourselves, or like in this case, you're writing the note to me, the teacher, you're identifying this file, who it belongs to. But then it doesn't give us an error. So for example, let's say I try to type in names, period 4, but I don't put the pound signs out front. Watch what happens now. It gives us an error. Name error, names not defined. Okay, then I delete names. Do it again. Now I could just hit F5 each time to make it faster. Name PER4 is not defined. You see that? And it's saying, what do you mean? What do you want to do? Because that's not a command that it recognizes. The computer doesn't recognize that. So our first command is going to be a print. And the print command I'm typing is print, open parenthesis, open quote, hello, what is your name? Close quotation and close parenthesis. Now let's run it and see what happens. Hit F5 on your keyboard, hit OK, it must be saved. It just updates the name. And now it says, hello, what's your name? So it prints it out on the screen just like I instructed it to. So this print command is a command that's recognized. Now, in programming, whenever you have a print command, it doesn't mean print it to the printer. It means output something on the screen. So print command is to output. All right. Then the next. All right. So now the next line is going to be name input. So now I'm setting up a variable here. Notice it stayed black. The font stayed black, and then I put equals. But then the input is recognized, so it turned purple on my screen. Don't worry if yours turns a little bit different color than my purple. It's okay. But it's this IDE, this Interface Development Environment, is telling me that these are words that are recognized, and these are commands that are recognized by this interpreter. Name is not, but since I set up an equal sign, I'm saying whatever is input on the screen, assign it equal to name. And I'll explain that here in just a minute. We're just going to do one more command, and that is Control V, let me paste here, and that is another print command, but this time it says, it's nice to meet you, comma. Now, there's a difference here. The first print command, I put a single quotation mark, which means I need to end it with a single quotation mark, so the open needs to match the ending. The reason I used a double in this one is because I wanted to have an apostrophe right here for its. And so if I would have opened it with a single, it would have said, oh, that's the end, and then I would have gotten an error for this and said S not recognized because it was outside of the quotes. So then I used doubles. The reason I like to use singles most of the time is because you don't have to hold down the shift. If you look at your keyboard, the doubles, you have to hold down the shift. The single, you don't. And therefore, it speeds you up when you're typing. Now notice, then I put a comma, and then I typed this variable name right here. So whatever the user inputs, whatever they type in the screen over here, it's going to output right there. Let's give it a run and see what happens. Hello, what's your name? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I hit enter, and look what it says. It's nice to meet you, Superman. So no matter what the user types in over here, the user gets asked, what's your name? They type in some letters, and then those same letters get output. And that's what we call a variable that holds data for us. And in this case, it was a string type data that we were using. So what's a string type data? It's basically just text. It's non-integer data. So these are all, you think of it as words, or I should say text. All right, let's keep going. Let's make this a little more interesting. And so I'm going to add two more lines. I'm going to paste here. This next one, print, says, how many times would you like to see your name? And then we have another input command that stops and lets the user input something. So whenever you have an input command, the program stops running and it lets the user type something in. And then it assigns that to whatever variable you use. So in this case, I've got the variable x. But notice I added something else out in front of this input command. It's called int. It stands for integer. And that means I want them to type in a number, an integer, not text. Okay? So let's go ahead and run it. Well, nice to meet you, Batman. How many times would you like to see your name? And I'll put 50. And then I hit enter. Okay, we got the red arrows. That means the program's done running. Well, that wasn't very interesting for the user. I wanted to see my name 50 times on the screen. So I need to type in another command here. Now this time I'm going to multiply name times x. So whatever they typed in, you might be thinking, how can you do that? Well, it does. It actually lets us multiply string type data with an integer, and then it just produces it that many times on the screen. So let's do it again here. I'm showing you guys right now the run F5, but in the future I'm just going to do a shortcut, hit it on my keyboard and hit F5 because it's a lot faster to do it that way. Superman. I'm going to put a space after it because I want it to be spaced out. Now I hit enter. It's nice to meet you, Superman. How many times would you like to see your name on the screen? I'm going to put in 50. I hit enter. It worked. Look at that. It just printed Superman 50 times. And the last thing we will always close our programs with, oops, I've got to click over here, sorry, with this input command, but notice there's no variable accepting any data. Press enter to exit the program. So that keeps it running until the user decides to exit the program. And I'll explain in the future why we do that. It's for a different one. We're going to be running this in the command prompt. But for right now, we're just going to get in the habit of doing that, putting this input command at the end of every single program that we run. All right. You guys have fun with this, and that's it for this one for names.